Hello everyone. I need to make sure these front drum brakes are in good operating condition so the old Mustang will pass inspection. The process begins with knocking the wheel bearing caps off on both sides. But since both sides are the same, I'll only show the work being done on one side. Let's jump right into it. I keep a dull old pair of dikes around to use for cotter pin removal. That was pretty tight. That's unusual. You should just pull right off. It's hitting a resistance here, I don't know what. There we go. Timken, made in USA. Feels all right. So the fact that this doesn't just pull over the brake drums, not what you kind of is. All right, not bad. And that doesn't look so bad either. So the front pads are more heavily worn than the back pads, which is kind of silly. The parts in here aren't quite as rusty as the ones in the back were. That star adjuster's a little tight. Probably just take it out and lube it up if I don't replace it. I'm going to do as little as I can in the front here. I think these brake pads are still good. If these pistons are good, not leaking that is. Oh, watery oil leaking out of that piston. So I'm going to have to replace the wheel cylinder, or whether I have to or not, it doesn't matter. I'm replacing it. Wheel cylinders can often be easily rebuilt, but I'm doing a lot of work to get the Mustang ready for the road, so replacing them is cheap enough to be a good time saver.
There's lots of grease down here. Oh, it's kind of old, dry. fossilized. So I might need to replace the wheel bearing seal on here that rides around this. I'm going to have to order those real soon. I'll order one for each side. I should already have that wheel cylinder. The brake kit still looks good. Everything looks good, aside from being dirty. And this star adjuster, I can probably just free up. I really want to do as little as possible, just what it takes to get this thing to pass inspection on these front brakes, because I have it in my mind that I'd like to convert these to front disc brakes at some point. So if I can milk this out so that they work good enough to pass inspection for now, then I'll be upgrading it later, so I don't need to replace all these parts right now. I've got to take off most of the springs in order to get the wheel cylinder out. That's starting to fray there. I can replace that. I do have a complete kit. I just don't want to use it if I don't have to. Try to get this brake line loose. Would like not to damage that. Just going to cut this brake hose. Because I'm replacing it anyway. It's coming out anyway. It doesn't matter how many pieces it comes out in. But I want to apply heat up here to help loosen this flare nut. And I don't want pressure to build up in the system from the heat. So that will relieve the pressure. Funny that nothing's leaking out. So I removed the cap from the master cylinder. This is still not dripping out. The inside of that, the inner lining on that hose is swollen, so it's squeezing itself shut.
This brake line has essentially plugged itself. It'll hold an uncertain amount of pressure.
What happens if I cut it all the way up here? There's nothing dripping out. Terrific. Well, I'm going to heat this fitting up down here in hopes that it will expand and loosen up on that flare nut. Because I really don't want to damage that flare nut. And it's practically round now as it is. I just rounded it a little bit more. Yeah. Guess it built up pressure. Did it build up enough heat? Yes, it did. That just blew that just blew the hose out of there. That hose was totally jammed. And just a little bit of cooling. Always prepared in case of fire. I kind of figured this would work because that's not really that heavily rusted. So I was hoping it would come loose so it could be used as is, and it did come loose. I guess I've got to let it cool down before I can work with it. All right. So I knocked the clip off of that and it came right out. This bolt that holds the wheel cylinder in really wasn't even tight. It was kind of loose. It took nothing for me to break it loose. This side also wasn't very tight. Boy, look at that old cracked hose. That's why I knew I was going to replace these by default. Yes, I put Never-Seez on it. I obviously want to put Never-Seez on that. Boy, this just about reaches. These hoses are kind of short. I guess it'll be okay. It's in its most extreme position. It's cut all the way to the left and dropped all the way down, and it reaches with nothing to spare. Not lined up. Oh, there it is. Just had to put the right bend into it. Okay, it's tight. Just double check that. You have to hold it on the bottom, or the whole hose will twist. Yeah, she's tight. So these are the first things that get put back in.
I didn't pay close enough attention to this spring. I installed it upside down. That causes a problem. Yep, wrong again.
Well, that's everything. I've got to find out where I can get these bearing seals, these weird wheel bearing seals, as quickly as possible. Because now I'm stuck until I get them. I can't finish putting this back together. That's really all the brake work I need. Now I just need to get these bearings cleaned up and packed and a new seal, put the drum back on, and I'm done. Meanwhile, while I wait for these seals, I can work on the other side. I'm not going to record the other side. I usually just show one side because they're both the same. I made the mistake of blowing the other side off with air. What a mess. So I'm going to hit it with some brake clean. That's what this stuff is for, actually cleaning brakes. That wasn't a full can. So I have the garage door wide open even though it's raining outside. I've got to have some air in here with this stuff. It's actually coming out pretty darn clean. I set the drums in there so I can get the outside edge of the backer plate here. Yeah, I think I'll hit the other side too while I'm at it. This turned out good, or good enough. I messed up on my last video about the Mustang drum brakes. The spring position, I got them mixed up. The yellow spring always goes on the side, it goes on the shoe that has the adjuster on it, the auto adjuster. The blue spring goes on the other side. The blue spring's a little bit heavier than the yellow spring, so this might affect, having the blue spring here might affect how the auto adjuster works. I'm not sure. I did that on the rear brakes on this car, so if they don't function right, I'm going to have to go back in and swap the springs. Put the blue or the yellow here where this one is, and the blue here. Right now I have the blue here and the yellow here. They're swapped on the rear. So this is the front and they're in the right position, so everything's good here. So I thought it might be cool to explain how this auto adjuster works, and I can even demonstrate it. Alright, so that shiny cable there starts up here at this peg, wraps around this cable guide, and comes down here to this adjusting lever. When you hit the brakes, the cylinder pushes them apart, but as soon as they get friction, the brake drum tends to push it this way, and so this one gets pushed this way, and it stops when it hits this peg up here. But so the front shoe pushes the back shoe, and that's why the back shoe usually has more wear, because it gets more force on it. But anyway, when the lining wears down enough, it can push back enough, and when it pushes back, what happens, it pushes back on this cable, so the cable pulls up on the adjuster. And so I can show you how the adjuster works when the cable gets tension on it. Check this out. You can see that star wheel is turning when you release the brake. See that? And that only happens when you're driving backwards. So when you're in reverse and you hit the brakes, that's when that happens. That's when the brakes get automatically adjusted like this.
The star wheel adjuster spreads the shoes farther apart, making the brake shoes tighter in the drum.
And by the way, that's how it looks after I cleaned it with the brake cleaner. I sprayed it with brake clean. Everything looks a lot better. So I figured out this paint can handle works on brake cleaner, so it makes it a lot easier to clean parts. Okay, it's time to pack these bearings, these front wheel bearings, the old-fashioned way. Get a nice gob of grease on your palm. You can do it with rubber gloves or nitrile gloves if you prefer. And just pack it in all the way around. See that? It's packed into that groove all the way around. And then on the other side. And then into the rollers to the extent that you can. Put pressure, use pressure, put pressure on it to push it in. That's fully packed. I can't get them to roll because there's so much resistance in there from all the grease. Next, see that? Now the other side. Pack it into the rollers as much as you can. That's that. That's fully packed. So there's all my Mustang's wheel bearings and spindle hardware all ready to go. My wheel bearing seals have finally arrived. Put a coat of grease on those, on the lips of the seal there, so it doesn't go on dry. I had these all ready and waiting for the seals. So the pack bearing is already in there, and I filled the void inside with grease as well. Well, it's time to put the seal on this one. Oh, for Pete's sake, they sent me the wrong seal. Unbelievable. Okay, 2 days later I got the right seal. This is a Timken 6815. The other one was a National 6815. Two different brands of the same seal. Done. Just put a little grease around here. A little coating of grease on everything there. Not sure what's hitting in there. Oh, so that sound was hitting this spring here. The inside of the hub was hitting this spring. Pretty sure that's what it was. And it's hitting it because it was installed upside down. See, there's a curve in it. It's bowed up to avoid hitting there. Okay, that's all the way in there. Now this bowl will clear and we won't hear that metallic sound when I put the drum in. That's better. That's a keyed washer. And a big old nut. So for some reason this goes on a little rough. Those threads are a little rough at first. Or maybe all the way. No, see, they're better here. There's no play at all in that. I think we're good right there. Put this cap over the nut, and that is supposed to keep it from rotating. when you have a cotter pin holding it in place. Make sure that cotter pin is bent down enough so it doesn't hit the inside of the cap. There. That should clear just fine. Nice and clean in there. Sounds good. Feels good. So now I'm going to adjust these shoes out in the back here, just putting this brake spoon in through that slot in the back. And you can hear that star adjuster as I click it up. I'm rotating that star. Just starting to hit. Okay, that is tight. That's too tight. Gotta back it off a little now. So in order to back it off, now that auto adjusting lever is designed, that auto adjuster lever in there pushes the star wheel down. So now I need the front of the star wheel to move up. And so you have to disengage that lever from the teeth of the star wheel. And you do that by taking a thin screwdriver, putting it in the slot, and you can feel it. You can push it out away from the star, and then you can adjust the star down. Which is, of course, easier said than done, but I did it. Yeah, that's good. It's got some drag on it, but not a lot. I could give it a little more even. Okay. I won't put any more drag on it now until after I try driving it and see how it feels. But right now the shoes are contacting the inside of the drum, so that's probably perfect. All I need to do now is put the rubber cap over this adjusting slot. Keeps rainwater out, I guess, or splashing water out. So here's that plug that goes into the slot. And it's a tight fit. So I use a screwdriver to help push it in there, kind of wedge it in. That's good. So there's that rubber plug right there. While I'm at it, might as well put some Never Sees on these lugs. And for some reason there's one nut on here, one open nut. They might have had wheel locks on this and stopped using them or lost the key or something. So instead of getting more of these acorn nuts, they just put a regular nut on. The brake pedal is super firm. It's the best I've ever seen it. The brakes feel great. They're ready for inspection. These KYB gas adjust shocks are really hardcore, I gotta say. They give it a very hard ride, at least on this bumpy ground. brakes are working awesome compared to how they were.
Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.